usually talk about this, but I feel like if I don't share it, it's just going to eat away at me. So, here it goes. It started on a regular Thursday night. I had just moved to a small town for a new job, one of those quiet little places that look charming during the day, but feel unsettling when the sun goes down. I didn't have many friends yet, and I was still learning my way around. That night, I stayed late at work, trying to impress my new boss. By the time I finally clocked out, it was past 10 p.m. I remember pulling out of the parking lot, realizing I was almost out of gas. The only open station was about 15 miles away, along a 2-lane highway that cut through the woods. I didn't think twice. I mean, people drive late at night all the time. But the road, it was empty. Not just quiet, dead silent. No other cars. No houses. No signs of life at all. That's when I noticed headlights in my rearview mirror. At first, I felt relieved. Another car meant I wasn't totally alone out there. But the longer it stayed behind me, the stranger it felt. It never passed me, never fell back, just kept the exact same distance. I tried to brush it off. Maybe they were just heading to the same town. But then my engine started sputtering. The fuel light blinked red, and within a mile, my car rolled to a stop. Dead in the middle of that endless stretch of highway. I cursed under my breath, trying to laugh at the bad luck. But when I glanced up, the headlights behind me were gone, completely vanished. The road was pitch black. That's when I heard it, the crunch of gravel behind me. A figure stepped into the glow of my dying taillights. A man, tall, thin, wearing an old jacket that looked way too heavy for the warm night. His face, I couldn't make it out clearly. Just pale skin and a smile that didn't quite fit. "You need a ride?" he asked, his voice flat, almost rehearsed. Every instinct in me screamed to say no. But I was stuck. No cell service, no gas, no other options. Against my better judgment, I nodded. He opened the passenger door of an old, beat-up sedan and gestured for me to get in. The car smelled like damp earth, mixed with something metallic, like rust or blood. I told myself it was fine, that I was overthinking. But then we started driving, and I realized something was very, very wrong. The man never asked where I was headed. He just drove. The road signs started looking unfamiliar, pointing to places I'd never heard of, even though I thought I knew the area. I finally asked, "Hey, where are we going?" He smiled again. "Don't worry, we're almost there." My stomach twisted. Almost where? I kept my eyes on the window, trying to recognize anything, any landmark at all. But it was just trees, endless rows of trees, closing in like walls. The farther we drove, the quieter it got. Even the sound of insects had faded, like the woods themselves were holding their breath. Then I saw it, a figure on the side of the road. At first, I thought it was a hitchhiker. But as we got closer, my skin crawled. The figure was standing unnaturally still, facing the woods instead of the road. Its head tilted slightly, as if listening. We drove past, and my pulse spiked when I realized it wasn't alone. There were more, dozens of them. Pale, motionless shapes lining the road, all facing the trees. Not one of them turned as we passed. What are they doing?" I whispered. The man chuckled softly. "They're waiting." I didn't ask what for. I didn't want to know. The car slowed down, almost stopping, and he turned to look at me fully for the first time. His eyes were wide, unblinking, too bright in the darkness. "You should wait too," he said. My hands were trembling, my throat dry. I fumbled for the door handle, but the lock wouldn't budge. That's when I noticed there was no lock. At least, not one I could see. He smiled again, and in that split second, I knew I had made a huge mistake. If you've made it this far listening to me, I just need to say, please, don't ever do what I did. Don't get into a stranger's car on an empty road, no matter how desperate you are. And if you want to hear the rest of what happened, stick with me. This isn't the end of the story. Also, if you're new here, it would mean a lot if you subscribed, liked this video, and shared it. The more people who hear this, the safer I'll feel knowing I'm not alone in this. Because the truth is, I never made it home that night. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it would crack my ribs. And then the car stopped. The man leaned closer, his voice calm, almost soothing. "You should wait too." I yanked at the handle, desperate to get out. That's when I realized the door had no latch, no lock, nothing I could use. It was as if the car itself didn't want me leaving. "Let me out," I shouted. The man didn't respond. He just stared ahead at the figures, his lips moving silently, like he was whispering to them. Then the figures turned, all at once. I swear to you, it was like a single thought ran through all of them at the same time. Dozens of pale heads twisting slowly, their blank eyes now facing the car. Facing me. I panicked, slamming my fists against the window. The man chuckled softly, like he found my fear amusing. "They've noticed you now," he said. "That means you're chosen." Chosen for what? He never answered. Instead, the car started moving again on its own. I could see his hands on the wheel, but they weren't turning it. The steering wheel spun as if pulled by invisible strings, guiding us deeper into the woods. I tried to keep track of the road, but soon the pavement ended. We were driving on dirt now, trees closing in on both sides. Branches scraped the roof like fingernails. And still, the man kept smiling. "Almost there," he whispered. I pressed myself against the door, searching for anything I could use to escape. My eyes landed on the glove compartment. I yanked it open and found nothing but a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it with shaking hands. It was a map, hand-drawn. At the center, circled in black ink, was a spot labeled only with one word, hollow, and beneath it, scrawled in messy handwriting, were 3 words that made my stomach drop. They always wait. I shoved the paper back, my mind racing. I didn't know what hollow meant, but I was terrified I was about to find out. Suddenly, the car jerked to a stop in front of an old clearing. Moonlight spilled down on what looked like ruins. Crumbling stone walls, moss-covered pillars, the skeleton of something ancient. The man finally turned to me, his smile wider than ever. "We've arrived." I refused to move. "I'm not going in there." He tilted his head, his expression almost pitiful, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "You don't have a choice." That's when I heard it, a low hum. Not from him, not from the car, but from the ruins themselves. It was faint at first, vibrating in the ground, in my chest. Then it grew louder, layering into voices, whispers in a language I couldn't recognize. The figures from the roadside were there now, standing around the clearing. I don't know how they moved so quickly, but they formed a perfect circle, their pale faces reflecting the moonlight. I bolted. I don't even remember pulling the handle. But suddenly, the door gave way, and I was stumbling into the dirt. My legs carried me into the woods, branches tearing at my arms and face, lungs burning with every breath. Behind me, I heard the man's voice calling out, not angry, not panicked, just calm, patient. "You'll come back. They always come back." I didn't stop running until I collapsed against a tree, gasping. My phone, miraculously, had 1 bar of signal. With shaking hands, I dialed 911. Static, just static. And then a voice. Not the dispatcher. Not anyone human. It whispered my name. I dropped the phone, my blood turning to ice. How did it know my name? Before I could even think, I heard footsteps. Not one set, many, surrounding me. I pressed myself against the tree, too afraid to move. Figures began to emerge from the shadows, their pale faces expressionless, their eyes reflecting the dim light. But here's the thing that froze me more than anything else. They weren't strangers. I recognized them. My old neighbor from the town I'd moved away from. A kid who used to sit behind me in high school. A woman I'd seen in line at the grocery store just a week earlier. People I knew. All of them standing there, blank-faced, staring at me as if waiting for something. I don't know how it's possible. I don't know if they were real or copies or something worse. But when I whispered, "What do you want from me?" they all spoke in unison. "Wait." My vision blurred with tears. My body trembled. I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to be part of whatever this was. I turned and ran again. This time, I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to get away. And that's when I saw it. Through the trees, faint but unmistakable, were headlights. Another car. I sprinted toward it, waving my arms, screaming for help. The vehicle slowed, and for a brief, desperate second, I thought I was saved. But when the window rolled down, my heart stopped. It was the same man, the same pale smile, the same calm voice. Only this time, he was sitting in the passenger seat, and behind the wheels was me. I stumbled back, the world spinning. My own face looked at me through the glass, lips curling into a grin that didn't belong to me. "Get in," my double said. I was standing on that dark highway, staring at a car that had stopped for me, only to see the same stranger smiling from the passenger seat. And behind the wheel was me. I swear I thought my brain had snapped. My own face looked back at me through the glass, grinning in a way I've never smiled in my life. Cold, possessive, hungry. "Get in," it said. I stumbled back, shaking my head violently. No, this isn't real. But it was. The doppelganger leaned across the seat, pushing the door open, as if inviting me inside. The smell that drifted out wasn't gasoline or leather or anything you'd expect from a car. It was decaying, like rotting leaves and something sour, animal-like. I turned to run, but the pale figures from the woods were closing in again. Their faces, their empty eyes, all pointed at me, their movements synchronized like puppets on invisible strings. The other me leaned out the window. "They won't let you go," he said, his voice low and steady. "Not until you're where you belong." I didn't wait to find out what that meant. I sprinted into the trees. Branches whipped across my face. My chest burned, but I kept moving. I don't know how long I ran, but eventually the woods broke open into another clearing. And that's when I saw it, an old wooden sign, half buried in moss. The paint was nearly gone, but I could still make out the words, "Welcome to Hollow," the place from the map. My stomach dropped. I thought Hollow was some vague destination, some legend, but it was real. I was standing in it. The clearing wasn't empty. A massive pit yawned in the center, like the earth itself had been torn open. The edges were lined with broken stones, carved with strange symbols that glowed faintly in the dark. That hum I'd heard earlier, low, vibrating, inhuman, was louder now, pulsing from the pit like a heartbeat. I crept closer, against my better judgment. When I peered into the hole, I saw movement. Dozens of pale arms clawing upward from the darkness, fingers twitching like they were reaching for me. The whispers grew louder, crawling into my skull, repeating one word over and over. "Wait, wait, wait." I staggered back, choking on fear. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. The stranger stepped out of the trees, his jacket heavy, his face still plastered with that awful grin. But he wasn't alone. My double walked beside him, moving in perfect step, both of them watching me with the patience of predators. "You've come far enough," the stranger said. My double echoed him at the same time, the words overlapping like a rehearsed chant. "Far enough." My voice cracked. "What do you want from me?" The stranger tilted his head. "Not want, need." He pointed toward the pit. "You were always meant for Hollow." The crowd of pale figures emerged from the trees, forming a ring around the clearing. My stomach turned when I saw more familiar faces among them. My old boss, a teacher from middle school, my cousin, who died years ago. All of them silent, blank, waiting. I don't know what broke inside me, but I screamed and grabbed the nearest rock, hurling it at my double. It hit him square in the chest, and he staggered back, but when he lifted his head, the grin was still there, wider, splitting his face unnaturally. The stranger chuckled. "You can't fight yourself." I turned and bolted, shoving through the circle of figures. They didn't grab me, but their heads turned as one, following my every step. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs nearly gave out. And then I saw lights. Not headlights this time. Lanterns. An old cabin stood in a small clearing, smoke curling weakly from the chimney. For the first time all night, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe someone lived here. Maybe I wasn't alone. I staggered to the door and pounded on it with both fists. "Help, please. You have to help me." The door creaked open. An elderly woman stood there, her face lined, her eyes cautious, but kind. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. I nearly collapsed at her feet. "Please, please, there's a man and these things," and MYMY face. She pulled me inside, shutting the door quickly. The cabin smelled of herbs and smoke, warm compared to the night air. I tried to catch my breath to explain, but she held up a trembling hand. "I know," she said. "I've seen it before." I froze. "What do you mean?" She glanced toward the window, as if afraid they were listening. "The hollow takes people. Always has. They wait for the chosen ones. When they find you, there's no leaving." Her words sank like lead in my chest. "Then, what am I supposed to do?" Her eyes watered. "Pray they haven't taken your place yet." Before I could ask what she meant, a sound rattled the cabin. Slow, deliberate knocks on the door. 3 of them. The woman went pale, clutching my arm. "Don't answer. Don't speak." The knocks came again, louder this time. And then a voice, my voice. "Let me in." My blood ran cold. I backed away from the door, shaking my head. The old woman whispered a prayer under her breath, clutching a small wooden charm. The voice outside spoke again, softer this time, mocking. "If you don't, she'll be next." I spun toward the woman. Her face had gone still, eyes wide with horror. The knocks turned into pounding. The walls rattled. The lantern flickered. And then, through the window, I saw it, my own face, grinning back at me from the darkness. Only this time, there were 2 of them, standing side by side, and both of them whispered in unison, "Wait." I was staring through the cabin window at not one, but 2 versions of myself, both of them grinning, their mouths stretched too wide, their voices hissing the same word. "Wait." The old woman gripped my arm so tightly her nails dug into my skin. "Don't look at them," she whispered. "Don't listen." But how could I not? They were me, my own face, my own voice, out there in the darkness, trying to get inside. The pounding on the door grew louder. Every thud rattled the frame, shaking dust from the ceiling. The lantern flickered. My chest tightened with every hit, certain the wood would splinter. I turned to the woman, desperate. Why are there two? What do they want from me? Her lips trembled. When Hollow calls someone, it makes copies. First one, then another, until the real one can't tell which they are anymore. The words sank into me like ice. Are you saying? Yes, she cut in, her eyes glistening. They're here to take your place. One of them will walk away as you, and the rest, she glanced toward the door, her voice dropping to a whisper. The rest get pulled into the pit. I staggered back, bile rising in my throat. The thought of one of those things walking around in my skin, living my life, speaking to people I loved, it was unbearable. The pounding stopped. Silence fell over the cabin, heavy and suffocating. Then, from just outside the door, my voice called out again. Only this time it was softer, almost pleading. It's me, the real me. She has the wrong one inside. The woman's face was drained of color. She shook her head furiously, motioning for me to stay quiet. But my stomach twisted. What if it was true? What if I was the wrong one? What if they'd already switched me somehow? My own thoughts suddenly didn't feel safe anymore. I pressed my hands over my ears, trying to block it out. The woman shoved something into my palm, a small wooden charm carved with a spiral symbol. Keep this close. It'll remind you who you are. I clutched it tight, the edges biting into my skin, grounding me for just a moment. That's when the window shattered. Glass sprayed across the floor, and one of the doubles shoved its head through, grinning with bloodied lips. Its eyes locked on me, wide and unblinking. You don't belong in here, it hissed. The woman screamed, grabbing a burning log from the fireplace. She swung at the thing with surprising strength, slamming the flaming wood against its face. The doppelganger shrieked, smoke rising from its skin as it recoiled into the night. For a second, I thought we were safe. Then the second one spoke, its voice drifting from the trees. The pit is waiting. You can't hide. The woman grabbed my wrist. We have to leave now. We rushed out the back door, into the dark woods. My lungs burned, my legs barely keeping up with hers. But somehow, the old woman moved like she knew every inch of this forest. They'll follow, she panted. They always do. But we can get ahead if we reach the river. The river? I didn't care what or where it was. Anywhere was better than that cabin. Behind us, I heard branches snapping, footsteps multiplying. And worse, laughter. My own voice, echoing from every direction, taunting me. We stumbled downhill, and sure enough, I heard rushing water. Relief surged through me as we broke through the tree line to a wide, black river glinting under the moonlight. But then I froze. Across the water, lined up along the opposite bank, were more figures. Dozens, maybe hundreds, all pale, all silent, their faces turned toward us, waiting. The old woman pulled something from her pocket, a small pouch, and scattered its contents into the river. The water shimmered faintly, like oil catching the light. "Hurry," she cried, yanking me into the freezing current. The shock of the cold nearly stole my breath, but I pushed forward, letting her guide me. The water dragged at my legs, threatening to sweep me under. Every second, I expected a pale hand to rise from beneath the surface and pull me down. When we reached the far side, the figures were gone. The bank was empty. My body shook uncontrollably, whether from fear or the cold, I couldn't tell. The woman collapsed against a tree, clutching her chest. "We don't have much time. They'll come again." I leaned against a rock, shivering. Why me? Why Hollow? Why any of this? Her eyes met mine, sharp and haunted. "Because you were chosen. Everyone who enters Hollow is chosen. But most don't realize the choosing starts long before you ever arrive." Her words sank in like poison. Long before. Did that mean every step of my life had been leading me here? The new job, the late night on the highway, meeting that stranger. She pulled something else from her pocket, a torn page, yellowed and brittle. She pressed it into my hand. "Read it when you're alone. It'll tell you what's coming." Before I could ask more, the trees around us groaned. A deep rumble shook the ground, and that low hum, the same one from the pit, rose through the soil like a pulse. "They found us," she whispered. From the shadows, my doubles stepped forward again. Both of them, their smiles wider, their movements in perfect sync. And then, God help me, a third one stepped out behind them. My knees went weak. 3 versions of me now, standing together in the moonlight, all whispering in the same flat voice. "Wait." The old woman shoved me back, her own voice cracking with terror. "Run. Don't look back." I stumbled into the woods, clutching the page she'd given me, every nerve screaming. Behind me, I heard her cry out, and then silence. I didn't stop running until I tripped and fell into a clearing. I lay there, gasping, clutching the page, too terrified to unfold it. But even as I lay there, I felt it, the ground beneath me vibrating, the hum louder than ever. And from the tree line, I could see them. Not 3, not dozens, but hundreds of me, all standing, all smiling, all waiting. I fell in that clearing and looked up to see hundreds of me, not just copies, not just shadows, full versions of me standing in a ring around the trees, every single one grinning the same impossible grin. Their teeth too sharp, their eyes too bright in the moonlight. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. My mind kept screaming, which one is the real me? One of them stepped forward, its head cocked at the same angle I must have made dozens of times in my life. It spoke in my voice, steady, calm, mocking. "You've run long enough. It's time." The others repeated in unison. "Time, time, time." I scrambled backward, clutching the old woman's torn page in my hand. The paper was damp with sweat, nearly falling apart. Desperate, I unfolded it. At first, the words made no sense. Strange markings, like the symbols carved into the stones around the pit. But as I stared, the lines shifted, rearranging themselves into something I could read, and it chilled me to the bone. When Hollow chooses, it does not take one life. It takes the many lives a soul could have lived. It multiplies them, strips them, and leaves only the strongest to walk away. I looked up again at the crowd of my doubles. They weren't just copies. They were versions of me. Lives I might have lived. Choices I might have made. All called here, all trapped, all waiting for one thing, to see which of us would remain. The ground shook beneath me, that familiar hum rising from deep below. The trees swayed, though there was no wind. My doubles stepped closer in perfect synchronization, their smiles never breaking. The stranger appeared again at the edge of the circle. His eyes glowed faintly now, like coals in the dark. Beside him, my first double stood, grinning wider than the rest. "This is the choice," the stranger said. "Only one walks away. The hollow must feed." My chest tightened. Feed on what? He leaned closer, his grin stretched almost ear to ear. "On you." Before I could react, the doubles lunged. Not all of them, but enough, 5, 6, maybe 10, hurling themselves toward me with impossible speed. I scrambled to my feet, swinging wildly, shoving them back. Their skin was cold and rough, like bark, but their strength was inhuman. One grabbed my wrist, twisting it so hard I screamed. Instinctively, I pressed the wooden charm against its forehead. To my shock, it shrieked, smoke rising from the spot as it recoiled into the dark. The others froze, their grins faltering for the first time. The stranger hissed, his voice sharp. "It won't save you forever." I didn't wait. I ran, pushing through the crowd, clutching the charm and the page like lifelines. My lungs burned, my vision blurred, but somehow, I don't know how, I broke free of the ring of doubles. The forest opened again, and suddenly, I was back at the pit. The massive hole yawned before me, the humming louder than ever, rattling my bones. The stone symbols glowed, casting sickly light over the clearing. And from within the pit, the pale arms clawed higher, reaching, reaching. The stranger and my doubles emerged from the trees behind me, surrounding me once again. But this time, none of them rushed. None attacked. They just watched, waiting. The page in my hand pulsed with heat. I looked down, and new words were scrawled across the bottom, as if ink were bleeding through the paper in real time. To end Hollow, the chosen must choose themselves. I didn't know what it meant. Choose myself, kill the doubles, kill me. The stranger tilted his head, reading the fear on my face. "Go on," he whispered. "Decide. The pit is hungry." My grip tightened on the charm. My heart thundered. I didn't know if I had the strength to fight hundreds of them, But I knew one thing. I couldn't let Hollow win. So I did the only thing I could think of. I stepped toward the pit. The doubles stirred uneasily. The stranger's grin faltered. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "I choose," I whispered. "I choose me." And I jumped. The air rushed past me as I plummeted into the darkness. For a moment, I thought it was over, that I'd be swallowed by the pale arms reaching up. But instead of grabbing me, they held me. They cradled me like 1,000 cold hands, lowering me deeper, deeper, until I was standing on solid ground at the bottom. The hum stopped. Silence fell over Hollow. I looked up. The doubles above me were screaming soundlessly, their faces twisting, splitting apart like broken mirrors. One by one, they shattered into ash, dissolving into the night. The stranger howled in fury, his body cracking, splitting, until he too disintegrated into nothing. And then silence. I was alone. I don't remember climbing out. I don't remember how I made it back to the highway. But the next thing I knew, I was walking along the shoulder, the sky just starting to lighten with dawn. A car slowed beside me. A real car. A young couple rolled down the window, concern on their faces. "Hey," the man said. "Are you okay? Do you need a ride?" My throat tightened. For a long moment, I couldn't answer. I just stared at them, my mind flashing back to that night, to the stranger, to the doubles. And then I caught my reflection in their window. I was smiling, not the way I meant to, not the way I thought I was. The grin stretched wide, too wide, and I realized maybe Hollow hadn't let me go after all.